I'm not here to preach or judge. I'm here to tell you the truth. For 8 years, I struggled with porn addiction, something I thought I could control, but never could. It started small, like it does for most people, but over time, it became my escape, my go to when I felt stressed, lonely, or just empty. It took me years to realize how much it was ruining my life, me focus, my relationships, and even my self esteem. If you're stuck in this cycle, I want you to know I've been there. I know the pain, the frustration, the guilt, but I also know what it feels like to break free. And in this video, I'm going to share exactly how I did it. The beginning of the struggle. It all started when I was a teenager. I didn't think much of it back then, just something I stumbled across, like most people do. At first, it felt harmless, even exciting, but what started as curiosity quickly turned into a habit. And before I knew it, it became a part of my daily routine. The scary part was, I didn't even notice how it was affecting me at first. My motivation dropped, my grades started slipping, and I began isolating myself from people. I thought I was just going through a phase, but that phase is stretched into months, then years. I used to tell myself, it's not a big deal. Everyone does it. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. I felt disconnected from myself, from others, from life. But I ignored it because admitting I had a problem felt too overwhelming. The turning point. After years of pretending everything was fine, I hit a breaking point. I remember sitting in my room late at night, scrolling mindlessly, and it just hit me. What am I doing with my life? It wasn't just the time I was wasting, it was the cost. I wasn't showing up for the people I cared about. I wasn't showing up for myself. I felt numb, empty. And for the first time, I realized I didn't want to live like this anymore. That night, I made a decision. I didn't know how I was going to quit, but I knew I had to try. It wasn't just about stopping a bad habit, it was about taking my life back. The challenges of quitting. My first attempts to quit were rough. I thought I could just rely on willpower. I'd go a few days without watching, but the cravings would hit me like a wave, and I'd relapse. Every time I slipped up, I felt worse about myself. The guilt, the shame, it was overwhelming. But here's what I learned. Quitting porn isn't just about stopping. It's about replacing. It's about building a new life that's more fulfilling than the habit you're trying to leave behind. I started small. I blocked websites, deleted apps, and got rid of anything that triggered me. But those were just surface level fixes. I realized I needed to dig deeper to understand why I was turning to porn in the first place. Building a system to quit. Quitting porn wasn't something I could do overnight, and I quickly realized that just relying on willpower wasn't enough. Every time I tried to just stop, I'd find myself back at square one within a few days. It was frustrating, and honestly, it made me feel like I was broken. But I wasn't broken, I just didn't have a system. So I started thinking of this like a problem that needed a plan, and that's when things began to change. First, I tackled the triggers. I sat down and wrote out every situation, emotion, or habit that led me to watch porn. For me, the big ones were late nights, being alone for too long, and boredom. Once I knew my triggers, I made a plan to address each one. For late nights, I started setting a bedtime alarm. When it went off, I'd shut down my devices and pick up a book instead. For boredom, I started filling my free time with hobbies I'd been neglecting, like working out, cooking, and even trying out new skills, like learning an instrument. The key was this. I didn't just try to remove porn from my life. I focused on replacing it with better things. Every time I felt the urge, I'd ask myself, what can I do instead that will actually make me feel good about myself tomorrow? Another huge part of my system was building a routine. For years, my days had been unstructured, and that lack of structure made it so easy to fall into bad habits. So, I created a daily scheduler note, something rigid, but enough to keep me focused. I'd start my mornings with exercise, even if it was just a short walk. Moving my body first thing in the morning helped clear my head and set a positive tone for the day. Then, I'd spend a few minutes journaling. I'd write about my goals, my struggles, and the things I was grateful for. This helped me stay connected to my why, the reason I was quitting in the first place. Evenings were another critical part of my routine. Instead of staying up late scrolling on my phone, I'd wind down with activities that helped me relax, like reading or meditating. It was all about creating a new rhythm for my day on that didn't leave room for old habits to creep back in. I also learned that I couldn't do this alone. For years, I kept my struggle a secret because I was ashamed. But once I opened up even just a little, it made a huge difference. I joined an online support group where people were going through the same thing. Seeing others share their progress and struggles reminded me that I wasn't alone. It also gave me a space to share my wins, no matter how small they seemed. Accountability was a game changer. I told a close friend about my goal to quit. It wasn't easy to open up, but having someone check in on me and encourage me made all the difference. I wasn't just fighting this battle in my head anymore, I had people rooting for me. Fast forward to today, and I can honestly say I feel like a different person. My mind is clearer, my energy is higher, and my confidence has skyrocketed. I've learned how to face my emotions instead of running from them, and I've built a life that feels meaningful. Quitting porn wasn't easy, it's one of the hardest things I've ever done, but it was worth it. And if you're struggling right now, I want you to know that it's worth it for you too. You're not alone, you're not broken, and you're not beyond help. Recovery is possible, one step at a time. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps you see that change is possible. No matter how long you've been struggling, if you're ready to take that first step, start small. Reach out to someone you trust, create a plan, and remind yourself every day why you're doing this. And if you ever feel like giving up, remember this: you are stronger than you think. Let's build a community of support. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and let's help each other grow. You've got this. I believe in you. See you in the next video.